cup of joe. Let's talk about some goings on and anything you know. Cup of joe. Let's talk about some goings on and anything you know. Good morning. Get in here and grab a cup of joe. Let's talk about some goings on and anything you know. Joe. Let's talk about some goings on and anything you know. Good morning. Get in here and grab a cup of Joe. Let's talk about some goings on and anything you know. Good morning. Get in here and grab a cup of joe. Let's talk about some goings on and anything you know.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. Is it hump day already? Yes. Happy hump day, everybody.
Did you have to look to make sure like I do?
Yeah, I did. I had to go down to my little calendar thingy in the bottom right of my
I know,
computer.
right? I'm constantly looking at that thing like 5 times a day.
And it is Wednesday today.
Yay. Good morning.
Good morning, Salty. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sitting outside with coffee. It's nice out here this morning.
Nice. It's nice to sit outdoors and drink coffee, isn't it? It's so much better than like sitting at your desk at your computer.
But I love it. I can't stand, like, I feel like I'm trapped in that house sometimes. I have to be, I'm an air sign, so I have to be outside a lot. It grounds me so much. So yeah, I'm taking the day off. I'm gonna let you take I'm just here to co-host and hang out.
Good deal. Imagine you'll probably have
today.
you'll probably have a thing or two to say about the new motion that's been filed.
I've read most of it so far. I read most of it, and then I got distracted by another story, and I'm like, I'll put her down a minute. I'm going to go read this, and hadn't went back to her yet. But yeah, I saw that. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, par for the course, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's going to try. She's going to continue to try to do whatever she thinks is necessary.
Yeah.
I read a couple of interesting things in there. I'm not going to lie. I was like, but I don't think any of it's going to warrant a new trial. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. There, let's turn down the light just a little. There we go. To do that now, I can just like close the blinds a little bit. It's so nice to have natural lighting back.
Yes, I imagine.
Couldn't do that when I was in Arizona. I could not. Actually, I think even when I was here before, I didn't go with natural lighting, and I like it so much better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have some things to talk about today. So obviously that motion for a new trial came down, filed pro per by lawyer Lori. It wasn't a handwritten motion this time. But it's almost the exact same amount of time that she filed her motion for a new trial after her first trial. And it's the exact same number of pages, 13 pages. So there's probably a lot of copying and pasting going on there.
Probably. And I wonder if they're only allowed to have a 13-page limit. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they have to file for extension of the pages. Like they do in Idaho, that they do that sometimes. You're only allowed so many pages sometimes in some of these motions. So I don't know if that's a factor there or not.
I would guess not 13. I would guess 13 isn't the magic number in
Kind of odd
Arizona.
number, right?
Yeah. I just reckon it was pretty much copying the previous one. Oh, so let's say good morning to a few people. Deanna, Forrest, always good to have you in here. Pammy, good to see you in here. Pammy, Arizona. It is early for you, isn't it? It's 7:30 in Arizona. Gosh, it's so good to be back on Eastern time.
Yeah. Trying to
I
find that
never-
sweet spot where it can accommodate everybody's times can be a little tricky sometimes.
It can. It absolutely can be. And it was because trial out there would go until 4:30, and then it's a good 35 to 45 minutes to get home after the trial. So then you're talking a quarter after 5. So by the time we're ready to do that recap with Trial TV Live and with the squeegee, I mean, it's 6 o'clock my time out there in Arizona, but it's 9 o'clock Eastern for all of you. So
yeah,
we are not all of you, not for you, but still, I mean, it's still
Well, 8 for
starting to
me,
get late
but
for you. Yeah.
yeah,
And
it
if we
was
go
8 for
2.5
me.
hours, which we did, that's late.
Yeah. But hey, we do what we do.
Yep. Do you know why they set time zones or who was responsible for that?
Look,
That
all
was
I know is back in the day when they, had the kids farming the land, that's why the school calendar was the way it was. They needed to be off, to harvest the fields and all that. And you go to school in the winter. All these crazy time zones. I'm going to go to Stonehenge. Let's just take it back. We all need to be on the same time. I go by the sun. I honestly do. I
yeah.
hate clocks and calendars. Everybody who knows me knows that. I can look out my door and check out the sun and guess what time it is. And usually I'm right.
Yeah. Yep. I'm pretty good at that too most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I had a professor in college that was huge into GPS and satellites and like all of this really cool stuff, but he also had a sundial in his backyard in his garden.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the ancient times.
Moonchild, hey, good morning. Edie Ruth is in here. Random old lady. I love it when random old lady drops in.
Is it Moonchild's birthday? Did I see something about that in chat?
Oh, happy birthday, Moonchild.
That's what I saw. Happy birthday. I think that's what I saw.
And Kelly is in here. And Mimi of 8. Oh, Rambo's in the house. Danny Hole. Brenda. I may miss a few people. I'm sorry if I do. I'm trying to catch up with chat, but I'm behind. Trace. Hi, Trace. Chatting, but driving, but listening. Hi, Trace. Good to see you in here. Pokemon Shelly, good to see you. Shelly, am I still too bright? Do I need to close my blinds a little bit more? Morning, Dizzy. Thanks for coming in and modding. Oscar's wife. I'm really scrolling fast now, guys. Anyway, welcome in, everybody. Thank you. Happy Wednesday. Got some things to go over before we get to the motion for a new trial from lawyer Lori. I want to go over, just do a quick hitter on a couple of the bigger news stories. Right, one sunny day. They deserve each other. Like Lori would look at Sarah Boone's hair and be like, what am I going to do with that? What could I possibly do with that?
I'm a miracle worker and all, but dang, girl.
Right. And what were you wearing into court too?
Oh, she needs to go over there and hang out with Taylor Shabusiness for a while, and she can learn the business. Get
Oh my
slammed down on the
goodness.
ground or something. Taylor won't put up with Lori's mess.
No, Lori may not walk out of that cell with her head still attached.
Probably not.
Oh goodness. So before that, of course, what do I always have to start? Here we go. What do I always have to start my show with?
Sports update. Sports update.
Yep. And
Basketball? Or wait, what are we doing? Basketball still?
yeah, we're doing basketball. The NBA
Okay.
finals have come to a conclusion. The first time the Pacers were in the finals in 25 years.
Well, did they win? Is it
We're
over?
about to find out. It's over.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And no, they didn't win. And
Oh,
one of their star players ruptured his Achilles tendon in the middle of the game. So
oh
that didn't
no.
help. That didn't help.
No. Poor guy.
All right, let's expand that. And
Of the memorable moments that got us to tonight, Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah, we are always going to remember this playoff run. I mean, it's been such an amazing ride for all of us as Pacer fans. All of us really hoping for this storybook ending tonight.
Yeah, that's why it's so tough this evening.
Right.
Unfortunately, no miracle finish this time, no stunning comeback for the
Right.
Pacers. The Thunder are NBA champs tonight. You know, Pacers had a 1-point lead at half,
Right.
and things were looking good despite that devastating injury that I think everybody's still talking about.
Yeah, our hearts are broken for Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
I mean, what an amazing playoff run this has been for him. ABC reported that his father, John Halliburton, was told that it's an Achilles injury. So we're still waiting to see. We don't know the severity of this, but you know, we've seen other players go down with Achilles injuries, and it's a long recovery. And in some cases, and again, we don't know what Tyrese Halliburton's injury, the severity is, but this might put him out for a good portion of next season.
Next season as well.
So
Yeah.
not only did we lose him tonight, and that obviously played a huge role in the Pacers losing in this Game 7, and our hearts are broken for Tyrese and how hard he's been. I mean, he's been the heartbeat of this team throughout the season. But I really think, in addition to the Halliburton injury tonight, Jenny, I think the three things that I come to, the Pacers committed so many turnovers tonight.
Turnovers
They had
were the key.
23 turnovers tonight. Obi Toppin didn't score 1 point, and he's been off the bench and has played so well throughout the playoffs. 0 points. And I think the other guy you've got to look at is Miles Turner and Aaron Nesmith. Turner had 6 points, no blocks. I mean, you've got to step up, and Nesmith didn't have much of a game either. So we'll talk about that over the next half hour.
We sure.
yeah, so I like the points that he's making here because Halliburton went down with the ruptured Achilles late. That was late in the game, but there were a lot of other ways that the Pacers didn't play well where they could have overcome. They were leading by 1 at halftime, and they could have overcome his injury, I think, if they had played all of the other stuff.
Will, and I know fans, you're feeling it too. We have team coverage tonight in downtown Indy. Our Anna Chalker and Ashton Hackman are at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where the fans started lining up for the watch party there hours before the game even started.
And we've got Marina Silva at the Dugout Bar, where Pacer fans tried to beat the Heat to watch tonight's game. And we've got Dom at Paycom Center in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, they're talking with the players. We'll check in with them in just a few minutes.
Gainbridge Fieldhouse, though, the place to be if you were here in Indianapolis
All
for
right,
Game
let's
7.
speed it up.
Yeah, thousands of fans packing the place to watch that pivotal game all together. They braved the heat to start lining up hours before the doors even opened. Our Anna Chalker's been at Gainbridge all night for us.
So, Anna, certainly a disappointing evening for the Pacer fans in terms of how this game ended, right?
It was, Scott and Jenny, I'll tell you, but I will tell you the one thing, these fans stayed every single minute. They were not leaving. They wanted to be here tonight to really end out the season. They followed them all the way through. We've talked about, at the beginning of the season, we probably would have never saw where we were today. That is the big thing here these fans have talked about all the day. I'll step out real quick because there's still a couple stragglers staying around. They were saying, given the loss, this was still a great season, a great playoff run. Some teams can't say they did this, but here we are. But I do want to show you what that watch party looked like while we were here all night long. Packed house, sold out. People were out here a few hours before the watch party even started. I will tell you all, when Tyrese was down, when they pulled him out, this place was silent. I have never heard it so quiet in here, but immediately they fought back. They got on immediately and they were like, listen, we are going to fight for him. We're going to fight for this team. We're still going to be energetic. And that's what they did. That's what this team does. Fans were telling us, given this loss tonight, they are still so proud of this team and the run they had this season.
They doubted us so bad, but like they say, they were saying most underrated or whatever. I said most underestimated. So yeah, they about to see.
Underestimated is right. You know, this team really defied odds this season, but back here live, we've still got some fans, you know, they're smiling through the pain right now. I'm sure it is really hard right now, but again, a great season out here, a great watch party out here, not the outcome they were hoping for, but I'll tell you, every moment until that last second, fans were on their feet, ready to go. This whole playoff run, that's how these fans have been, because we've known this has been a long time coming for this team and something they really can still be proud of as we look back on the season we've had this year.
So many odd acts.
Hold on. Don't get ahead of me there. So yeah, super proud of my Pacers. I've never been to a watch party like where you go to your home stadium and watch a game that's being played by your team in somebody else's arena or stadium. That's kind of an interesting phenomenon to me. I'm not being critical of it. It's just something guess it's a big like a social, I mean, you're socializing with fans of the same team, right? So, yes, Dizzy, thank you for bringing that up. I do have an interview scheduled for tomorrow night with Tom Evans, who was juror number 18 from Lori's Idaho case. He's been up in the mountains in Idaho on vacation, and he just got back, and we touched base yesterday, and we're good to go to talk about this latest trial. He was at the first trial back in April, did not come and attend this latest trial, but he's also been doing research into the FLDS. And we're going to talk about that story here in a second. I think we'll just do a quick blip. Awesome, Dizzy. Thank you. Yes. So we'll be, after this show's over, everybody will be portaled to the interview with Tom tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. That's going to be a very interesting conversation because these missing kids in Idaho are coming up right when Tom has been doing research into the FLDS. So he's going to enlighten us some on what his research has produced.
Yeah, that story is really, I was deep diving a lot of things last night. And it goes back to the same stuff that I was looking into when Chad and Lori's case first came about. I'm not happy. I'm really frustrated and mad right now with FDLS and the way they continue to. I probably need to just be quiet until I get all my thoughts together because I'm really having a hard time with this.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to call you to explain. I was like, I need you to walk me through this and tell me a few things. So I'm glad you're doing that with him because it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, he's been doing some good research. So tune in tomorrow at 6. You'll be portaled there. So hey, turn your notifications on so you don't forget. I always forget, and then I like join the conversation 5 or 10 minutes late. I'm like, no, what did I miss? What did I miss?
Yeah.
Butterfly, welcome in. Web Sleuths, welcome in. Thank you for joining us.
Butterfly taking some time out of her vacay to listen to your show.
I appreciate that.
She's down here on the beautiful Gulf Coast enjoying my beautiful weather.
Nice, very nice. Okay, so the next one I just want to touch on, I just want to do two quick hitter news articles is Barry Morphew. Obviously, that's huge news, and a lot of people have, and you included, Salty, have done deep dives into that. I'm not going to do a deep dive this morning on Barry Morphew. I just want to like hit on the news real quick. There's actually a clip from somebody who is like not a true crime person. He's a quote unquote legal expert or analyst for this TV station, but he explains it like on an everyday level where it made more sense to me. But the first one, if you saw that video clip that I paused real quick, that was at the end of the Pacers clip, that gal was at Lori's trial. And I was searching through YouTube for an appropriate clip to play. And this one came up and I'm like, hey, I know her. I mean, I don't know her, but I saw her quite frequently at the trial. So anyway, let's hit a couple quick hitters on Barry Morphew just to catch everybody up to speed. If you haven't been paying attention, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've done deep dives, and I've just been watching everybody else's deep dives.
suspects, including an animal tranquilizer gun and on-again, off-again charges. When Barry Morphew was first charged with his wife Suzanne's murder, she was still missing. Well, that is no longer the case, and now Barry Morphew finds himself in handcuffs again, found by police here in Gilbert, Arizona, and we are getting our first look at him here. Take a look at this just in minutes ago. Barry Morphew's official new mugshot, now booked into the Maricopa County Jail. Suzanne Morphew went missing on Mother's Day back in 2020 from her Colorado home. Her husband, Barry, was the prime suspect in her disappearance and eventually charged with her murder. But that case was dismissed in 2022. And a year later, in 2023, Suzanne's remains were found about 90 miles from her home. According to the new indictment, the toxicology showed a specific substance combination in her system that's used to tranquilize and sedate deer called BAM. Well, Barry Morphew was a deer farmer. The indictment shows when Suzanne disappeared, the only person with a prescription for this BAM substance living in that entire area of the state was Barry Morphew. His team have denied he was responsible for her death.
Was premature because guess what? We're hearing it now, 10 days before trial. No body. There's no evidence. Now the community wrongfully is going to believe that Barry just got away with murder.
That was, of course, before her remains were found. According to the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, Barry Morphew is now being held here on a $3 million bond. We are now waiting for a press conference out of Colorado to start in about the next hour to explain the new charges and hopefully learn how and why Barry Morphew was here in Gilbert, Arizona, of all places. Interesting.
And so we're learning some details about some possible marital issues and spying. What?
Yeah, so he was, it's funny because my phone was blowing up when I was on my way back to Indiana from Gilbert because I had just left Gilbert like 2 days before he was arrested. I actually did my drive through. Remember when I did my drive through from between the different addresses on Alex's route from the Los Favoritos to Melanie's house and then to Brandon's house? That was on the 18th. That was the day that the Colorado grand jury indicted him, and 2 days before they arrested him in Gilbert. So they had to have been keeping an eye on him for them to know that he was in Gilbert, you know, at that time. That's very interesting. But I was no longer in Gilbert. But even if I was, like, what would I have done? Gone and tried to visit him in jail before he gets extradited? But my phone blew up like the minute he was arrested because people are like, you know, you've been in Gilbert and you're from Indiana. So they have ties to Indiana. They used to live in Indiana. And there have been people who have done like research back into where they used to live. I have not checked any of that out yet. But there's stuff out there. They have been Pokemon. Shelly says they have been watching him. Thanks, Pokemon.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it at all because he was snapped up pretty quickly.
They've never stopped watching.
So what
Barry
came out
Morphew.
after this was that
Right. Yeah. I mean,
they just haven't. They've always, this is not out of the blue. He knew it was coming. He knew once they found her body that if they found any evidence, Barry knew it was all coming eventually. They've never taken their eyes off Barry Morphew.
yeah. And it makes me wonder if they're also watching Melanie's.
Yes,
know.
they are. They got up to the statute of limitations for her charges. They could go another 20 years and still charge that girl.
Good morning, Deanna. I saw your note early on. I said good morning earlier, but I'll say it again. You can never say good morning enough. Good morning. Good morning.
Suzanne Morphew reportedly bought what's considered a spy pen. It was a pen that would record audio conversations and things, and that was reportedly so that she could catch if Barry was having an affair. However, it was also reported that she was also having some sort of affair or conversation with another man. So there were clearly issues, but there was a possible motive here that she wanted out of the marriage. There's also another bizarre aspect. We're talking about that animal tranquilizer gun.
Okay.
Right. So his cell phone, the time of her missing, her disappearance, was tracking all over their home, like all over weird locations, pinging an unusual amount of activity. He told investigators that's because he was chasing a chipmunk with the tranquilizer gun. Correct. But the prosecutors and the investigators believe it was in that moment of the pinging.
See,
What on earth are you going to do with a tranquilized chipmunk?
I don't know. Apparently, they had a bunch of chipmunks running around their house, like it was a constant thing, according to Barry. But that's
Okay,
so we
but you
have an
don't
image.
you
One of
don't
the
you don't tranquilize them. You either trap them with a live trap or you exterminate them through extermination methods,
well,
but
yeah.
you don't shoot chipmunks with a tranquilizer gun.
But that's just Barry's excuse. The
Ugh.
crazy part to me about that whole thing is we do have an image in the documents with the coordinates all over that house. They can pinpoint his. I mean, that's you're in the kitchen now. Now you're in the living room. Now you're in the bedroom. I don't know. Drifting clocks and all. I'm not sure about all. How they can pinpoint it that good and it stick.
Right.
It
Right.
appears that because his truck never moved that night from the driveway, although the doors were opening and closing, and they have him pinging all over the inside of his home. I've never seen it quite that tight before. He's pinging all over the house, to the point they can say he's running around the house. That to me is odd, and I want to hear that.
Yeah. Yep. It is going to be an interesting trial, and it will go to trial, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
his defense attorneys are not yielding any ground at all. It was funny, that quote that she said, well, they have no body. Well, now they do. Now, what are you going to say, lady?
Yeah. Isn't that the same lady? That's the same girl who interviewed Lori, isn't it? That reporter.
Yes.
I like her.
Yep. She was there at trial almost every day, if not every day.
I like her.
All around, that something would have happened to Suzanne, possibly him chasing her with this tranquilizer gun. That becomes a huge part of this whole investigation. Her DNA was on the cap of it, found in their drying machine.
There are so many bizarre details to this, but sometimes when you look into cases as convoluted as this, you're like, weird motive, weird alibi. The first we've ever heard of a chipmunk alibi.
I've never heard of that. Obviously, that when he was first charged, she wasn't found. And of course, we know it's so hard to prove no body homicides. So this time they have a body, they have the toxicology, the autopsy. It shows she died by homicide. Investigators have quite a bit more, and prosecutors now, in terms of evidence on their side than they did before.
And the Gilbert connection.
We need to know. I don't know if he was, I'm not sure if he was living here. I don't know how or why he was here. So we're hoping we'll clear that up here coming up.
Weird.
We don't know why.
He was living there
All right,
in a
Brandon,
trailer
thanks
park.
for that big update.
There are plenty of those out there. All right. So this is the second one. This has somebody who comments on it, like in between parts of this, that I really like. I really like his take on things. And he's just
We have Barry over there with an alibi. I'm chasing a chipmunk. We have Chad over there telling Tammy there's a raccoon in the backyard I'm taking care of. Koberger's out stargazing. These weak alibis are crazy that they think people will believe them. It's insane.
You can't make this stuff up, but they tried.
Hey, there's a song out there by a country band. I need an alibi. I need me a witness who can testify. You got the wrong guy. I love that song. And every time I hear a crazy alibi, that song pops into my head immediately. If I could play it on YouTube without getting struck, I'd do it.
Right. Maybe, I wonder if you can do clips of it, like short little, like 3-second clips.
I don't know. It'd be perfect to insert into some alibi videos.
Yes.
The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree.
Yet another stunning twist in the case of Suzanne Morphew, a Colorado mom of 2 who went missing on Mother's Day in 2020. Her husband, Barry Morphew, now charged a second time for her murder.
It has been a long road, but I can tell you that our law enforcement officers have never forgotten, have never given up, and they have been working so hard to get to the place where we are today.
This latest update, years in the making.
With a case that's been simmering for almost half a decade, the death of Suzanne Morphew has all of the hallmarks of a true crime case. A husband, a missing wife, a suspicious death, a body that wasn't recovered until some years later.
The case has topped headlines and captivated the public.
A twist in the case of a missing Colorado mom.
New developments tonight in the disappearance of that Colorado mom.
Barry Morphew was initially charged with first-degree murder and evidence tampering 4 years ago. Those charges later dropped just days before his trial was set to begin.
In 2022, the prosecution dropped the case against Barry Morphew because there was a number of holes within their case. There were some evidentiary issues that they were precluded from presenting, but probably the most serious part of it, they didn't have a body. No cause or manner of death to really explain what happened to Susan Morphew.
In 2023, Morphew spoke exclusively to ABC News with his daughters Mallory and Macy by his side, maintaining his innocence and claiming his life had been ruined by the allegations.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of your wife?
Absolutely not.
You never had a shred of doubt that your dad was completely innocent?
I've never had a shred of doubt. Not one.
It all began on...
Can we ask you that again? Can we get an update on that answer? Oh, it's going to be so tough for them. Because, I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, unless you had suspicions about your dad before that, unless he was like a continuously abusive type of father/husband, I mean...
He was a good dad by all accounts. Their marital problems were, he was manipulating the girls to come onto his side of things and telling them things that Susan wasn't telling them. And so it appears like, but you're right, these girls are young women now, and they love their dad and they've always believed in him. And you know, when you're a kid and you're growing up with your mom and your dad and they're fighting, and you know, you never will, if you don't witness, or even if you witness abuse, do you ever going to think, oh, my dad killed my mom? It's, right. I'm not going to throw shade at them for supporting their dad. What I wonder now is how they feel with new evidence that this BAM was in her bone marrow, and the only person that could get that drug in the whole area was Barry Morphew. That's hard evidence you can't argue with.
As long as that gets presented to the jury, I don't see how they can come to any other finding. Right. Guilty. I mean, that's just so incriminating. I mean, you never know. You never know. I mean, crazier things have happened, but with juries. Yeah. But I mean, that's like pretty point A to point B to point C to a guilty, right there. Yeah. Just that all by itself.
It is. That's pretty hard evidence, because those drugs are so regulated, and you have to have, you know, the means to purchase them, and they have to know who you are. All these things. So they know he was the only one that could get them.
Yeah. All right.
Mother's Day 2020. Suzanne's family says she went on a solo bike ride near their home in Salida, Colorado, then vanished. When the 49-year-old didn't return, Barry Morphew asked a neighbor to call police. At the time, Morphew was reportedly near Denver, over 3 hours away.
If anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, no questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you.
Was there any indication before she disappeared that something was amiss?
No. Macy and I were texting her on her road trip, having the sweetest conversations and sending her pictures of the fun that we were having.
Did you observe any fights, arguments, disagreements between your mom and your dad that concerned you before?
No.
Before her disappearance, Suzanne was fighting cancer.
I know that she was going through chemotherapy for the last couple of years before her disappearance, and I know she was going through some hard things and made some bad decisions. But
what kind of bad decisions?
She was really having trouble with the chemotherapy and the drugs.
Prosecutors say Suzanne was having an affair with a high school friend who authorities ruled out as a suspect.
When you found out that Suzanne was having an affair, what was your first thought?
My heart was broke. My heart was broken. I didn't believe it. Anybody that knows her wouldn't have believed it. And I didn't believe it until they showed me proof. I made them prove it, because they kept lying to me about other things. I thought, well, this is another lie to get me to say something. And I made them prove it. And it was just heartbreaking.
Morphew denied the marriage was in trouble.
We had a wonderful life, wonderful marriage. She was just so loving and giving.
Okay, so Salty, you got to just give me a brief synopsis of what their marriage status was really like. Like, is he sitting here just lying his ass off right now?
Yes.
About how good their marriage was?
Yeah, he lied to the cops and told them that they had a great marriage, everything was good, and then the cops began to investigate and saw otherwise. We read a whole string of text messages the other day on my show, the documents from Susan to her best friend back in Indiana. And she was telling her friend everything that Barry was always controlling and the different things. And she suspected him of having an affair first. That's why she got the spy pen and put it in her bedroom to record Barry. But instead it recorded her, and the cops found it. And then it took them 6 months to find the guy she was having the affair with, because Susan and Jeff took a lot of measures to cover their tracks. And it took them a minute to find him. But yeah, Barry's sitting here lying through his teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. Dizzy created that emoji there that they're throwing up in chat. I love it.
Uh-oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, we have a liar emoji.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And such a good mother.
But a 100-plus page affidavit from the district attorney filed in May 2021 presents a different story. Prosecutors offering texts which appear to show a strained marriage, Suzanne referring to her husband as Jekyll and Hyde, and just before she disappeared, telling him, "I'm done." Suzanne's sister telling an FBI investigator that in the months leading up to her disappearance, Suzanne had come to realize what a narcissist her husband Barry was. And she shared a text message she says Suzanne sent her just days before she was reported missing, saying he's also been abusive emotionally and physically.
She revealed to me that she had really kind of come out of her denial about her marriage and that there was a lot of unrest in the home.
According to the affidavit, Melinda told investigators when she found out that Suzanne was missing, she said, "Damn it, damn it, damn it," to herself, because she was certain that Barry killed her. In that same affidavit, authorities saying Barry Morphew denied any physical abuse or altercations between Suzanne and him.
I absolutely believe Barry Morphew was involved in my sister's death and disappearance.
In September 2023, more than a year after the initial charges against Barry Morphew were dropped, and just months after his interview with ABC, authorities say they discovered Suzanne's remains in a shallow grave, 45 miles south of the family home.
A major development in the case of Suzanne Morphew. 3 years later, officials say they've found her remains.
Cracking the cold case wide open, raising new questions about what happened to the Colorado mom and who is responsible.
The toxicology report officially determining Suzanne's death a homicide and finding a chemical cocktail consistent with an animal tranquilizer known as BAM in her bones, noting these drugs are marketed as a compounded injectable chemical immobilizer for wildlife. According to the new indictment, prescription records show that when Suzanne Morphew disappeared, only one private citizen living in that entire area of the state had access to BAM, Barry Morphew.
So real quick, somebody said in chat that he's telling the girls now that she voluntarily took BAM as her treatment for her leukemia.
Okay,
Like
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That, oh my God.
If his daughters are gullible enough to fall for that, then hey, I've got no mercy on them, because that's ridiculous. And to try to come out and say Susan was on drugs, she was getting drugs off the street, talking about marijuana. Well, sir, do you realize marijuana in most states are for cancer patients? So shut up with your she was on drugs stuff. And he also throws a lot of shade about, well, today Susan wasn't drinking. We don't know that Susan was drinking or not. She's not here to talk to even give her side of the story. But Barry's out there trying to trash her at every turn he can take to make himself look better. And that's the thing about the boy next door that the girl falls in love with. That's what his whole entire game plan is. You're going to look bad. I got to look good at all costs. Even when I'm accused of killing you, I still got to make you look bad. Yeah, we know, but women like me know about guys like you, Morphew. So shut up with your lies.
Right. And we all know that Colorado is like one of the front running states in developing marijuana. And I mean, they have so many ways to like narrow it down to what you can use marijuana for now.
Oh, they
and
do.
HTC, not just marijuana, but HTC and, THC.
Here in Florida, we had, when they first made it approved for medical, it was just like the CBD only, topicals only, until they marched cancer patients before our courts and said, no, 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 no. The THC is what helps us along with that CBD. And then it became legal in Florida for medical marijuana to be smoked by cancer patients. Now it's available for almost everybody who has any condition. But Susan had access to all of that right there in Colorado because they were the forefront. There's a company there that invented or developed Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web is a strain of marijuana for children to combat their seizures. And until Charlotte got that treatment, she had constant seizures all day long. Her dad was in the military overseas. He began to do research and saw this was a good option for her treatment, but it wasn't available in the US. And then these two brothers created a strain with very low THC, but very high in CBD. And that cured that little girl's seizures.
Wow.
It was amazing to watch. I watched the whole documentary on it. And so I support medical marijuana 1,000%. Anybody who knows me knows I do. So for him to come out and say stuff like that about her and her not even here to defend herself is just a disgrace.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Victim blaming, victim shaming. I mean,
exactly. And it's like, dude, stop it. I don't care if she was having an affair. I honestly do not care either way, because a lot of people, a lot of adults apparently choose to do that when they're married, but I don't have a judgment towards it. I'm the opposite. The minute I think about cheating, it's time for someone to pack up and leave, right? But that's just me. But I don't have any feelings about her either way for what she was doing. That doesn't mean she deserved to be murdered because she was having an affair. If you were more involved and checked into the marriage, maybe she wouldn't have sought comfort from someone else.
How many cases are we going to see of that where the people are over their relationship? I mean, you got Sarah Boone, you've got Lori and Chad who are planning to move on, and they each unalive their spouses. Just move on. Like, how hard is it to just move on?
Right. It's not as hard as people want to make it out to be. And I think a lot of people get caught up in the what we have, all the money, all the property, none of that's important. I'm the girl who walked away and said, just give it away. Nothing in this house worth fighting over. Bye now. And I walked away and left it all. I didn't care. Bye. But that's me.
Yeah. And kids complicate things too, also, because then you have to come up with some type of a shared custody arrangement. And Brandon survived the attempt on his life, but he still to this day has to share custody with Melanie, who is under multiple investigations in multiple jurisdictions and agencies for doing really horrible things or having some type of participation in really horrible things. So
yeah, it's got to be hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have all that with my, there was no courts involved with my divorce. I paid for it twice just to get away. We just 50-50'd our kids, and I haven't spoke to that man in years. I have no desire to. My kids, that's their dad. That relationship's totally separate from the husband he was, right? So you have to learn as a parent to separate that and not do that to your kids. And a lot of parents make the mistake of, I'm staying for the kids' sake. You're not. You're hurting the children by staying, because you're teaching them this is acceptable behavior, and we just deal with it. And I came to that realization. Like, this is not, I cannot sit here and say this, that's the reason to stay. It's not. Kids are way more resilient than we give them credit for. And they know a lot more than we think they do.
Right. They see more and they know more than we think they do. Yep.
They do.
The most shocking part of this indictment is how the prosecution is tying this all together through what was found in Suzanne Morphew's body, this compound of drugs within her system. Barry Morphew has access to BAM, the tranquilizer cocktail, because it's used to transport deer from one location to another. And he's admitted to not only having the drug, but using it on his deer farm.
The indictment also alleging there were other contradictions in Morphew's statement about being at a job site during the time of his wife's disappearance, saying video evidence shows he was there for less than 30 minutes and seen placing items in multiple trash cans. His lawyer telling ABC News, yet again, the government allows their predetermined conclusion to lead their search for evidence. Barry maintains his innocence. The case has not changed, and the outcome will not either. Morphew is currently in custody in Arizona, awaiting extradition back to Colorado.
So, Colorado has 30 days from the date of his arrest to pick him up from Arizona. That was the 20th. Yeah, the indictment came down the 18th. He was arrested on the 20th, and let's see, June has 30 days, so they have till July 20th to pick him up and take him back to the great state of Colorado. Let's see, that'll be 5 days before Lori's sentencing, so she'll be the next one headed up north from Arizona after that. Man, that one's a tough one. I think we've already got people who have already made up their minds, and gosh, that's I have a hard time not. I have a hard time not because of that BAM evidence.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're innocent until we've been guilty and all that, but we're gonna lean one way or the other. And in this case, not all are so cut and dry. We know that, but some are. And right now, that's overwhelming evidence, right? But I don't know. I don't think he purchased it. He had purchased it apparently a while before he actually used it on Susan. So I don't know when the last time he purchased the drug was, but still, it's in her system, and he's the only one in the area that would have had access to the drug, licensed to buy it. So that's pretty damaging evidence, in my opinion.
Good point, Trace. Good point. Boom.
Right.
We can lean. It's
the
okay
YouTube
for us to
jury,
lean.
Trace. We're the YouTube jury, and what we say by God stands.
Until we're proven wrong.
Right? Heck with them YouTube lawyers. We're the YouTube jurors.
All right. So then the next big case that came out just a couple of days ago was the missing children in Idaho.
Yes.
The dad is still a member of the FLDS.
I saw the interviews with their mother, and this story goes back. There's a whole backstory to that story, and I began deep diving that yesterday evening. I feel so bad for this woman. I feel really bad for her.
So the FLDS is the Fundamental Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is not associated with just the LDS, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So it's not what you think of as the traditional Mormon teachings. You'll see from the way they dress, it's kind of like Mormonism married Amish or German Baptist.
Yeah.
They go back to the old days and how they dress and probably how they live their lives. Well, I'll have some questions for Tom tomorrow on.
Yeah, if anybody saw what happened at Waco, they all come out wearing the prairie dresses. That's just their common way to dress. It always has been. I've watched documentaries on the FDLS, decades ago when they were trying to get the kids out and different things, when all the Warren Jeff stuff was, that's just how they are. But as I'm looking more at the FDLS stuff, it feels like Lori and Chad rather, was incorporating FDLS stuff into his beliefs and not so much the LDS, right? If that makes sense. It seems like he was incorporating more of the FDLS type stuff into what he was trying to create, I guess is the word. Because I feel like Chad may have wanted to be like Warren Jeffs in the end. Maybe not to the I want 100 wives kind of thing, but trying to gather a following, you know what I mean? To their cult.
Right. And to be fair, chronologically, genealogical wise, Chad and Lori were closer to the LDS Church and the Mormon Church, which is still scary because of the things that happened there. But the FLDS Church, it was split off from the LDS Church decades and decades, and like well over 100 years ago. It might have been in the early days of the church when the church first came out west, which was 1840s to 50s ish, if I remember my church history right. So they've been split off for 150 years. So there's not really any direct correlation between the LDS Church and the FLDS, except their very beginnings back in the days of Joseph Smith. So when Joseph Smith was killed in Carthage, Illinois, is that where he was shot? There was a lynch mob that shot him in jail. There was a split among the church members at that time of who should take over the church from there. And it ended up being the regular LDS Church, or a segment of the church picked Brigham Young to take over the church, and the other segment picked Joseph Smith II. And I think that's how the FLDS started, like way back in the 1800s. Anyway, that's my understanding of church history, and I may have to get that right before we do any more deep dives into the FLDS. And like I said, maybe Tom Evans can help answer some of those questions for us too.
Yeah, we need to get those kids' faces out there. I've taken the day off. I was going to do it today, but I just got a lot on my plate right now with other things I'm doing as well. But I want to post their photos for anybody in the area, because these children are being hidden by the FDLS.
Right, and there are beliefs that they're headed to Utah from Idaho, that they're on their way, or they're already in Utah by this point.
Well, the fact that her other child disappeared 2 years ago, they don't know where she is. It's to this day, doesn't know where that child is. And that girl now is 18.
Right. So the mother has actually left the FLDS and is no longer a member of that church.
Well, she was pretty much told to go. She was not worthy. She needed to go. She had a miscarriage. There's a whole backstory there. It's deep.
Yes. And we're not deep diving it today. I'm just going to show the pictures of the kids and show a couple of brief news articles. So we have this like 2-minute clip from KSL. That's the Salt Lake City news channel. And then we'll get Nate Eaton's East Idaho News 5-minute take on it after that.
Police across multiple states are searching for a missing 13 and 15-year-old they believe left home due to religious beliefs. Alan and Rachel Fisher disappeared from their Montview, Idaho home within the last 24 hours.
News specialist Shelby Lofton spoke to their mother about where she thinks they are and why they're gone.
When Elizabeth Roundy got home yesterday, her 2 youngest children were missing, and she suspects family members still within the FLDS community may have had something to do with it.
I think that their older siblings were hanging around waiting for the opportunity.
Elizabeth Roundy is desperate for her 3 children to be found. Her 13-year-old son, Alan, and 15-year-old daughter, Rachel, were missing when she came home from a class Sunday night. She hasn't seen her now 18-year-old daughter, Alintra, for 2.5 years. Roundy left the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints years ago. She has legal custody of her children, but she says they've tried to leave home before.
They've just been so brainwashed, they don't want to listen to me.
Roundy and authorities believe the children were taken to an FLDS community in Utah.
They've been taught that the outside world is evil, and the only way they're going to have salvation is if they're within the polygamous communities.
Tanya Toole helps women like Roundy who have left the FLDS community. She's worked on missing children cases like hers before.
When you call law enforcement, a lot of times their hands are kind of tight. The children wanted to go back, so why would we interfere necessarily with that?
Toole claims recent
Well, because when I'm going to answer that last question, when police say, well, the children wanted to go back, why would we interfere with that? Because there are custody arrangements when parents split. So I would assume that mom and dad have divorced and the court has ordered some type of custody arrangement. If not, if they just kind of separated and there's no custody arrangement, then I could.
Well, this mother right now, these 2 kids, she had full custody of the kids.
So it doesn't matter what the kids want if they wanted to go back.
No, but I'm telling you, when it becomes between religion, how separation of church and state, The FDLS are getting away with a lot of things because it's a religion. I don't care anymore. Go and get these kids. Period. You're right. They're minors. They're not even capable of making their own decisions. That what's best for them, you know. And if you listen to that mother talk in the long extended interview with Nate, she really explains how this all operated and how this woman was raised in it, right? And then you see how they're torn between I need to go, but then she has to also leave her children. It's a whole I'm like, it really got me mad yesterday because I've been screaming this for years since Lori and Chad, FDLS, and I would go to a certain, I would go visit channels talking about it, and I walk away confused. Are we blaming them, or are we? No, it's not them. They're great. It's just these offshoots. Or are we going to finally say this FDLS is dangerous regardless? And offshoots that come out of this stuff are just as dangerous. We need to stop sugarcoating it at this point because it's religion. That's not what my God taught me. You don't tell kids you can't even have toys. Your whole job is to build us a little kingdom. I'm not down with that at all. I don't care. I know what my God told me, and he didn't tell me all that. It's just weird that they continue to get away with all this.
Yeah, it's weird that they continue to get away. Like having a weird religion that teaches that. I mean, that's not illegal. I mean, it's weird,
No.
but
Warren's
taking the kids away from their mother who has full custody, that is wrong, illegal.
And Warren is still leading them from prison. They are being told to return all of the children because they need to build for them. I can't with this right now. I can, but I could go off on a whole thing, and I just don't feel like doing that this morning. Yeah, it's sick. It made my stomach. It made me sick when I saw this story, and then that's when I called you, and I was like, talk to me about this, because I was just like so aggravated.
Yeah, so it's interesting how this also relates to the Lori Daybell case, because we were when we saw interviews between the police with Melanie Gibb and with Charles that day at the hotel, you could instantly detect that there was a vibe that one of those detectives was LDS and one was not.
Yeah.
The same in both scenarios, in the interview with Melanie Gibb in the police interview room, and then with Charles that day at the hotel. I mean, one was and one wasn't, and they like dial in on that one that is LDS to communicate with. All right, continuing on with this.
Revelations from the imprisoned FLDS prophet Warren Jeffs could put children in danger. She says he's warning members about children's salvation ahead of the end of times.
You're going to want to be in there so you're one of the chosen to be resurrected, while everything outside of your community is destroyed.
Toole says it's confusing for children and hard for ex-FLDS mothers to go up against.
Electra, I love you. Please bring Alan and Shelley and come home.
Roundy tells me it's possible her children are traveling in a gray Honda sedan. You can call the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office with any information you may have on this case, including a possible sighting. Reporting for KSL 5 News, I'm Shelby Lofton.
I'm Nate Eaton with...
Okay, so Nate did an interview with that mother about 8 months ago when only her oldest daughter, the 18-year-old, was missing.
Yeah.
So now he reached out back to her. So this is like a little 5-minute summary that he has of his phone call with mom. And after we're through with Lori's motion, then we may go back and watch that 45-minute interview with mom. I'm not going to do it before Lori's documents because that'll take a while. But we'll watch this 5-minute summary first of Nate's latest phone call with mom after younger brother and sis went missing.
With EastIdahoNews.com, and this morning authorities are looking for 2 children who left their home Sunday night and have ties to the FLDS group. Now, this story might sound familiar to you because the sister of these two kids actually ran away in January of 2023. Her name is Elentra Fisher, and we've covered this story extensively over the past 2 years. Well, now her two siblings, Alan Larand Fisher, he's 13, and Rachel LaRae Fisher, she's 15, left Montague in Jefferson County on Sunday evening, and it's believed that they could be in Trenton, Utah. Although when I spoke with their mother, Elizabeth Roundy, I just got off the phone with her. She believes that they're probably in hiding somewhere else, that they probably went somewhere that authorities will not be able to find them. Now, this is Elentra Fisher. She is now 18, but when she was reported missing in 2023, she was a juvenile, and she is the sister of Alan and Rachel. She left her home, and her vehicle was later found abandoned at a gas station. And these children have ties to the FLDS group. Their father is an active member of the group. Their mother, Elizabeth Roundy, no longer is. She has left the church and has custody of these children, has full custody. So it is illegal. Whoever has these children, it is illegal for them to have them. And she has been living with them in Jefferson County. She tells me that on Sunday, she went to Bible study. These kids went down to the shop on their property to use the internet. When she got home from Bible study, the kids were gone. Elizabeth was very emotional on the phone. She was distraught. She just is so upset that her two kids have left. Now, the authorities say that they're possibly traveling in a gray Honda or Hyundai sedan with Utah license plates. Alan is 5'9", weighs around 135 pounds. He has longer, sandy blonde hair and blue eyes. Rachel is 5'5", 135 pounds with brown hair and blue eyes as well. The sheriff's office asks anyone with information about these missing children to call them, 208-745-9210. Or if you see them in Utah, just call the police. Wherever you're at, if you happen to see these kids, call the police. Elizabeth is, as I said, distraught, emotional. I don't know how to describe her feelings other than this is her third child. Well, she's now had 3 children or if you see them in Utah, just call the police. Wherever you're at. If you have 135 pounds with brown hair and blue eyes as well. The sheriff's office asks anyone with information about these missing children to call them, 208-745-9210. Or if you see them in Utah, just call the police. Wherever you're at, if you happen to see these kids, call the police. Elizabeth is, as I said, distraught, emotional. I don't know how to describe her feelings other than this is her third child. Well, she's now had 3 children who have left her. She has 1 left who's at home with her. And she is just worried that these kids will be in hiding, as this has happened with other families with FLDS connections where their children vanish. They disappear in the middle of the night. It's unknown who picked up the kids. It's unknown if this was planned for some time. Elizabeth thinks that it might be, that this was obviously planned out because these kids knew to leave when their mom was away. And she is just working to get them back. So anybody that has information, as I mentioned, is asked to call the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Here are the photos again. Alan Larand Fisher, he's 13. Rachel LaRae Fisher, she's 15. Both believed to have left Montague Sunday, and they could be in Trenton, Utah, where they previously lived, although they could be anywhere. They likely are in hiding. The children are possibly in a gray Honda or Hyundai sedan with Utah license plates. Again, Alan is 5'9", 135 pounds, longer sandy blonde hair and blue eyes. Rachel is 5'5", 135 pounds, brown hair and blue eyes. It is illegal to be housing these children if you have them, as their mother has full custody and did not give permission for them to leave. She told me that she has kept a very close eye on these kids for the past several months. They did attend the public school system in Jefferson County until Christmas time, and since then the mother has homeschooled them, although now with it being summer they weren't in any type of schooling. But hopefully these kids can be found. If they are found, they will be returned. They will be returned to her to the mother in Montague, to Elizabeth Roundy. We're going to stay on top of it. You can read our past stories about Alentra Fisher and her escaping. Now that she is 18, she is an adult. So legally, if she is found, she, doesn't have to be returned to her mother. She can do whatever she.
What are we doing here? Joe, you're muted.
Dang it, that's the first time I muted myself. I forgot I'm muted.
At least you're not releasing videos and you're just talking away and it's nothing, no sound. I've watched like 3 of those in the past week. I'm like, did they realize? That's sad. You go into a whole video and then realize you would nobody could hear you when you talk.
That's the first time I've muted myself all morning, and then I get caught, busted. But I was commenting though, because Nate says, okay, she's 18 now. The oldest daughter is 18 now, so she can decide to go live wherever she wants to go live, with the compound, with the FLDS or not. But that also means she can be charged as an adult, as an accomplice to their kidnapping. I mean, she could go to jail. She could, if she's proven, like people are theorizing, and maybe she has no involvement at all. But I mean, it's reasonable to assume that dad took her up there, or other members of the church took her up there and said, all right, convince your little brother and sister to come with us, because it happened fast. She said, I think mom said she was gone to Bible study for like an hour and 45 minutes. So it happened fast. Anyway, that's no bueno. All right. We got about another half a minute of Nate, and then we'll move on to Lori.
She wants, but it's likely that she was involved in her siblings' escape, or her siblings leaving. That's what Elizabeth believes, that Alentra somehow may have played a part in helping her 2 siblings leave her mom and get back to the those involved in the faith. We will stay on top of it. You can read our past stories at eastidahonews.com. We have past interviews with Elizabeth on our YouTube channel. You can go watch them all. And we will, of course, follow up with her as the week progresses. I'm Nate Eaton, eastidahonews.com.
All right. So I've got another video right behind that, but I don't want to do like a rough transition from Nate to Lori like that. Boom, boom. So I want to, anyway, get the word out there. Like, if you know people that live in Utah, I mean, they could, or in Idaho, in that, maybe even the tri-state area, because it looked like northeast Utah was where those 2 compounds are. I think that's kind of a mountainous area, so it would be, I'm going to say it would be easy to hide, but then, I mean, we know that they can also be easy to find if people have their eyes open. But I mean, you take them back there into a mountain compound somewhere, and it might be pretty tough. So who knows? Just keep your eyes open, keep the word out. It's a good question, C. Taylor. That's a very good question. I mean, it seems like they would be able to keep an eye on it, but you got to have probable cause to go and search, right? You've got to have a probable cause affidavit, and you've got to have a judge sign off on it to get a warrant to go search. And that's probably a pretty sticky situation in those, cult compounds like that. It's probably a very sticky situation, and who knows about their, how many arms they have, like what happened in Waco. I mean, they had a ton of firearms in there, and that just went really, really badly. All right. So let's switch over to Lori now. She filed a pro per motion a couple of days ago for a new trial in the second trial. It's very similar to the first one she filed at the end of the first trial, but it's 13 pages long. There's a couple of interesting things in there, a couple of not so interesting things. So
She
I'm going
goes
to take a
into
look
great
at that.
detail about her illness, doesn't she?
Yes. Yep. Yes, she was sick.
Her,
She was on death's door.
her common
Death's door.
cold.
Yep. That caused her to cough during a direct examination of the prosecution's witnesses. Oh, excuse me. First, we're going to go back and we're going to take a look at a couple just brief clips from the May 14th hearing. And the May 14th hearing is the one where she and Judge Boreski kind of got a little bit heated, and that's not where she got, taken out of court, but we're going to look at that one too. But it's the one, May 14th is the one where they argued about witnesses and the relevance of witnesses. And he says, "Are you done?" Like, I could watch that thing probably 400 times on a loop, but we're not going to do that. We're going to watch it once. But that's next. We're going to watch the May 14th hearing, and then we're going to watch June 6th trial day 2, which is the one where she does get sent out of the courtroom. Just to refresh our memory about how horrible Judge Boreski is to her, because she mentions that in her motion for a new trial, how he's just so horrible to her. I got to remember my timestamps on this. I didn't write them down. Shh, don't tell. I didn't write down my timestamps.
Statistics in their case in chief. So I was
Oh, it's
trying to
right
have
there.
someone who could be able to look at whatever reports they're trying to put up and rebut anything that they're saying.
Is Mr. White an expert in that area?
Mr. Weaver?
No, I said Jeffrey White.
He's my investigator.
Right, that's who I was asking, who has relevant information. What's Mr. White's relevant information for why might he be called into trial?
Because he's interviewing the witnesses as well, the defense witnesses.
So is it some sort of extrinsic impeachment if they?
Correct.
I don't think I can boost the audio. Sorry, guys.
What about Melanie Gibb?
I was told to get
So
a
Melanie
booster a
Gibb
while
and
ago.
Zelina Pastinas were both initially noticed in the state's 15.1. They have not noticed them again. I don't know if they can still call them if they're on their list, but they have relevant information to this case.
Have they been presented for an interview by the state?
They've both been interviewed multiple times by the state.
I mean, not by police officers, I mean by either a prosecutor or someone in her office in preparation for trial.
In this case,
Yeah, in either case.
not that I'm aware of.
Have they been subpoenaed?
The subpoenas are out.
The subpoenas are. Have they been
What
subpoenaed?
relevant information?
Just going to mention that because we saw. She's talking about her witnesses for the upcoming trial. And he asked her if they have been subpoenaed, and she says the subpoenas are out. Well, we saw later filings that the process servers didn't try and didn't attempt to process this or to serve the subpoenas on her witnesses until May 31st and June 1st and June 2nd, which is when the trial was starting. So I don't know if she's lying here or if she was lied to, because her investigator to her right there, Mr. Jeffrey White, is responsible for getting those out and interviewing those witnesses. So has he told her that they were out and they weren't? Because he's messed up a couple of other things, but I can't imagine him being dishonest about that. That makes no sense.
Well,
but
if he did do, okay, if that's the case though, and she had them ready in time, and he didn't send them in time, that's a problem. I don't care if it's Lori or not. That's a problem. I got to be fair across the board when it comes to stuff like that with the law.
Absolutely, it's due process, and due process is
exactly
relevant to both parties, but to both sides of it, and to the parties that are being served, and everybody involved in that legal process deserves due process. And it's interesting to me that he wasn't there for any of the second trial in person. This was the last time I think we saw him in court, was this May 14th hearing. I don't think we saw him for jury selection. I don't think we saw him for the actual, I know we didn't see him in court for the actual trial at all.
Well, according to Lori, he was sick too.
He was what?
He was sick as well. He had the same symptoms that she had. I don't know who got who sick.
That's interesting. I don't want to think about that.
Who? 6 feet people. I practice that to this day. I don't like nobody in my bubble.
Yeah, so we're talking about the experts now, and then in a minute we're going to hear about the civilian witnesses, and he's going to ask her about the relevance, and this is when voices get raised a little bit, and he says, "Are you done?"
Would they have?
They have relevant information to Brandon Boudreaux.
Okay.
And around that
What
time.
is the nature of that relevant information?
It will come apparent if they have to get up and testify, Your Honor. I will only call them if I need
They're going to
them.
be precluded if you can't give me some minimal what relevant information they have. Just saying that they're relevant doesn't make them relevant. Okay.
Yes, and is this procedure that I have to say what each of my witnesses are relevant ahead of time and give my whole case in chief over to the state? It is?
Yeah.
That's how it works? That's the rules of law?
Stop interrupting me. Yes, that is the rule of law. That's just what the state does. They tell you what relevant information each witness has. So my answer is yes. So if you can't tell me what relevant information they have, they'll be precluded.
They both have had dealings with Brandon Boudreaux and Alex Cox. So
Okay, so does someone, that was a server for them at a restaurant. It doesn't make them have relevant information as to this case. Anyone who came into contact with Mr. Boudreaux or Mr. Cox had some interaction with them at some point in their lifetime does not make them a relevant witness. So what is their relevance?
the state had them on their witness list and they're saying they're not relevant?
Apparently not. Are you calling them?
No, they're not on my.
Police interview however many people they interview because they're working on the case. They don't know who has relevant information, who doesn't have relevant information. All the people that they interview don't end up being relevant. So because they're listed in a police report somewhere, doesn't necessarily make them relevant.
Oh, he's so mean to
The
her.
relevance lies in if I have to rebut something that the state puts on in their case in chief. They're just called in case they need them. They're subpoenaed in case I need them.
All right. It sounds like they don't have relevant information. However, I'll include these names on the potential witness list for screening the jurors if the jurors have any knowledge of any of these witnesses out of an abundance of caution.
I think there's one more thing before we move on to the next one.
The questionnaire that goes out to the jurors.
Oh yeah, we got one more good one
these
here.
Witnesses again. Mr. Dworkin, Mr. Barkman, if they're expert witnesses that haven't provided any sort of report or expert witness testimony, they're likely to be precluded as witnesses. But I'll include them on the witness list. I think what I'm hearing is you said you might finish on the 9th or the 10th?
Even with Lori sick, she still finished
on the questionnaire to
12th.
the jurors, potential jurors, that the trial is likely to end by June 13th, Friday, June 13th. However, I'll include
call,
that
Judge.
Monday, the
Good call,
23rd,
Judge.
and kind of say, if needed or if required, might go to June 23rd out of an abundance of caution. So I'll finalize that questionnaire. It's pretty much done, and it's pretty much the same as the last one, except for the names of the witnesses, the specific allegations, and then I removed the question about viewing medical examiner autopsy type photos. because that's not needed in this case.
Even on
But I'll
1.25 speed, he's
send you
calm.
guys out a copy. Actually, I could probably finish it in the next couple minutes and print out a copy so you have it before you leave here today. That questionnaire, I need to get with the jury office. I think we were talking about sending it out the 22nd and cutting it off the 28th or 27th. And then we'll meet again on the 29th in this courtroom to go over the responses. That'll be at 1 p.m. on the 29th.
Your Honor, in light of the juror misconduct or the alleged juror misconduct, I have to object to us having so much information go out about my personal information in that jury questionnaire. Do you not think that was a problem?
What personal information?
The state versus Lori Daybell.
It's the name of the case.
Yeah, but you don't put that on anyone else's questionnaire or one other person that's ever had that questionnaire ever put out with their name on it. They just don't do it.
Do it in every trial I've done.
Then the people are just going to Google it, and then we're going to have the same exact problem we had getting a jury for that case. We're going to have the same exact problem.
Are you done?
Yes.
Are you just going to keep?
We're going to hear that one more time.
How do we screen for if people have heard about it? What's the name of the case?
Yeah, but you don't put that on anyone else's questionnaire or one other person that's ever had that questionnaire ever put out with their name on it. They just don't do it.
Do it in every trial I've done.
Then the people are just going to Google it, and then we're going to have the same exact problem we had getting a jury for that case. We're going to have the same exact problem.
Are you done? Are you just going to
love
keep? Okay. How do we screen for if people have heard about you if we don't include your name?
I think that was all we needed to hear.
To screen out for the people that know about your case.
Yeah, there's so many
And then
good
the
points,
people
and
that
she doesn't know what she's
survived
talking about.
Are screening on the 29th, and those that
All right.
survive.
We can skip to the next one.
The 30th will come in.
The next one is the June 6th trial, day 2. It's the day after jury selection. So we started the trial. Let's see, jury selection was Wednesday. So day 1 was Thursday. Day 2 was Friday. And this is the moment we all love, but he's so mean to her. He's standing up behind his chair and yelling at her.
In the afternoon of the 30th, this will
skip. It's so funny you guys on TV couldn't hear the white noise.
No, we couldn't hear it.
They had that in Delphi too, but they had actual like physical sidebars. In
Yeah,
Delphi.
they did. Them judges love their white noise.
Yep. It's funny though, that gal on the left there, she's the courtroom assistant. And she came out to the gallery a couple of times and said, guys, just because you can't hear what we're saying doesn't mean we can't hear what you're saying in the gallery. So the white noise blocks out our hearing, but not theirs. So they could hear like people in the gallery talking about it while these sidebars were going on.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take a 15-minute recess, morning recess. We will resume in about 15 minutes. Please remember the admonition.
All rise to the jury.
Who's she smiling at out of the side of her eye right there? I don't know that
Whoever
I've thought
will
that
look at
before.
her.
Is it the
She
jury?
was-
As the jury is exiting, is she like giving them like a woeful glance as the jury is
Probably.
exiting?
Probably.
I want to see that again.
She's trying to humanize herself.
I went backwards.
She was
too
throwing that smile at you, Joe. You wasn't picking up what Lori was putting down, were you?
I have a secret that I'll never share.
Ooh, what?
Just
What? Damn it, Joe. You got to call me later and share now. Look, Joe's blushing, guys.
Am I?
A little bit.
His fingers to his forehead, like that look. It's like, oh my God, when will this ever end?
It reminds you of Judge Hippler in Idaho with all the faces he makes and face palms he does.
Did I go back to normal too fast? I went back to normal too fast. Thought they were done. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Sorry, guys, I went back way too far. But I'm afraid I'll go too far if I go forward. Hang in there. There we go.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take a 15-minute recess, morning recess. We
Now
will
watch her
resume in about
face
15
here
minutes. Please remember
as the jury is
admonition.
leaving.
All rise for the jury.
Oh, that smile was something that Pam Hicks said to her. Oh, but there she goes with that little look. She's about to get in trouble with the judge. I think that's what that look is. She knows they're about to have a little discussion, and she's sniffling into her Kleenex. That's gross. She's reusing the same Kleenex. She should have a whole box of Kleenexes, right?
All right.
Use one, throw it away, then get another one.
We've concluded that sidebar. A record's been made. I would just caution the defendant again. She needs to be very careful, and she's getting into areas that could open a huge door that I don't think she wants open. I'm going to make another record at 10:24 to 10:25. We held a sidebar that I don't think made it onto the court record. That sidebar again discussed similar issues of if the defendant brings in evidence or testimony that she was a good person and no ill intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to. The state, the defendant, and advisory counsel were at the bench when we had that short 1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Kay?
Just, Your Honor, that again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405, that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she is a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts such as the murder of her children, her husband, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
No, it'd be 405.
Yeah, they withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that
Then all 404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on.
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could include being convicted of 4 murders. So
and would you
talk
like
to your advisory counsel during the break? And
you don't need to yell at me either. I'm
okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm very courteous. I'm very courteous to you.
Take her out. Take her out.
No, you have
Take
been
her out.
nothing.
She's like, I'm very courteous to you.
See, we're at 1:30. Here we go. One more time, and then we'll get onto the motion. I promise. Last time.
A good person, and
I think
no
you're
ill
obsessed.
intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of
Just such a classic moment.
Of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to. The state, the defendant, and advisory counsel were at the bench when we had that short
life artist,
1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Kay?
Just, Your Honor, that again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405, that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she is a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts such as the murder of her children, her husband, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
No, it'd be
Yeah, they
405.
withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that you.
Then all 404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on.
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could include being convicted of 4 murders. So
And would you
talk
like?
to your advisory counsel during the break. And
You don't need to yell at me either. I'm.
Okay.
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm very courteous.
Take her out.
I'm very courteous to you.
Take her out.
No,
Take
you
her
have
out.
been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings. Talk with your advisory counsel about the rest of your cross. We're going to resume in 15 minutes.
Here she goes, casting a spell on him. No.
All right.
Yes, she did. I took all her power away. She has no more. I put a protection around the judge. We're good.
Yeah, I think he's good. I think he's real good.
Well, he's safe from Lori's brand of evil. Trust me.
I've been nothing but curious to you.
Okay.
She's curious to all of us, but I think we got to figure it out now. Okay, so there is Judge Bresky being mean to her. He's so mean that she needs a new trial. So come to find out that they didn't publish the minute entries every single day of trial for the orders that the judge gave every single day, but it turns out he did every single day give a forcible transport order after that very first time when she refused to come, and he had to issue that forcible transport order. Say that 5 times fast. Forcible transport order. Okay, I got it. He did every single day, just preemptively, just by whatever means, up to and including force. See, Taylor.
Damn. Oh, sorry. I was reading some local news on Facebook, and this girl I know is on there. Shit. Sorry.
Oh no. You watched his mom's first trial, the one in Idaho? Is there video for that? Or I thought there was just audio for that, but maybe they published the video somewhere now for it.
No. There was no. Lori's trial was never televised in Idaho. Audio only. That's all you're going to get. Chad's was televised. Chad didn't argue with the cameras, but Lori did, and she got her way.
Oh, so maybe he watched Chad's trial then.
Yeah. Nobody's watched Lori's. We just had audio.
Gotcha. That's what I thought.
We had to stay up all night long listening to that dang audio just to hear what happened in court.
Right. All right, where is my PDF? Here we go. All right, so the first one we're not going to get into in detail because it'll take way too long. But this was her first motion. So it says filed on May 1st, and she was sentenced on or not sentenced, she was found guilty on April 20th or 21st, somewhere in there. Was it even that far along in the trial? Anyway, so it was a week and a half after the verdict in the first one. She filed a motion for a new trial. She talks about the juror misconduct of juror 15, the discovery violation, prosecutorial misconduct, the court's lack of impartiality. The jury received and consulted extraneous evidence. That was about juror 15. Then Tylee and Alex's statements were precluded from being entered in as evidence. The discovery violation. That's the gray key information that she didn't get, and she actually didn't get the gray key data in a timely fashion. But this was overruled. Prosecutorial misconduct. She's coming after Ms. K there. She's coming after Trina K. And the judge commenting on evidence during the defendant's cross-exam. He actually did admit that I probably shouldn't have done that, but it doesn't rise to the level of affording you a new trial. So that was the first, after the first trial filed on May 1st. That was that Be Like Nephi thing where he's like, well, if you're comparing yourself to the translated beings, then, and as far as that much, I will allow it, when he should have just said, I will allow it. Hi, Missy. Good to see you in here. Missy's been lurking. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And thanks for dropping a comment. Good to know you're out there. Okay. Here we have the new one. It's dated the 23rd, but as far as I know, it was posted on the docket yesterday, and I downloaded it this morning. Motion for a new trial. State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, defendant. Deanna cleared it up. She said Colby listened to the first trial from Lori's actual trial for the first time the other day.
Yeah, that's what he's been doing.
Tough. That had to have been tough.
Yeah, he made the decision to go ahead and listen to it, and that's what he's been doing over on his channel.
Okay. Lori Daybell requests the court grant her a new trial pursuant to protections provided by Rule 24.1 of the Arizona Rules of Criminal Procedure, blah, 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 blah. Memorandum of Points and Authorities. Fourth Amendment violation, medical evaluation. On Friday, May 30th, the defendant became ill, vomiting at the lunch break during jury selection. So she did vomit. I wondered how she knew she was ill, or how they knew she was ill. So she threw up at lunch. After lunch break, the defendant informed the judge and the state of her sickness. Sickness is a different matter, Lori. You were ill, of your illness. We already knew about your sickness. We still know about your sickness. But we didn't know about your illness, details of it. Reminds me of the Disturbed song, Get Down with the Sickness. Back when I listened to Disturbed. Haven't listened to that in a hot minute. And that her investigator had also been out sick since the prior day with the same symptoms. The court asked defendant to stay for 10 minutes while he informs jurors and releases people with schedule conflicts. The defendant was reluctant and did not want to vomit in front of the jury. However, the judge refused to dismiss her. The 10 minutes turned into 1.5 hours. Before being dismissed by the court, he advised defendant to let the court know through her team before Monday if she was still sick. She's still sick. She's still sick today, but I don't know if she's ill or not. On Sunday, June 1st, defendant was still sick and had her advisory counsel email the court to inform they that she was still too sick with a virus and could not proceed on Monday, June 2nd. Monday, June 2nd, the defendant was very sick. It's so funny that she's substituting the word ill for sick, because she is sick. She's a sick individual. And it's like a Freudian slip. She keeps using that instead of ill. And it had advised the court in a timely manner. However, the court sent an order to the jail on June 2nd to have defendant brought to court by any means necessary. Defendant could not walk from being weak and dehydrated, having vomited all weekend. MCSO brought defendant to court in a wheelchair. Defendant then explained to the court she was too sick to represent herself and would not go forward. The court again asked the defendant to stay while he brought in potential jurors to explain, and ordered her out of the wheelchair into a regular chair. The defendant argued that the last time he said 10 minutes, which took over 1.5 hours. So she's arguing her own arguments, which were ineffective the first time. Sounds like a great legal strategy. So he dismissed her prior to dismissing the jury. Defendant was then left in the wheelchair in a holding cell with no blanket, medicine, or hydration for 6 hours. Ooh. Waiting for transport back to the jail. That's not good.
That's rough. And
Yep.
that happens. They'll leave you sitting in the holding as long as they need to.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the reporters that was there for the trial, that's a local reporter that has covered other cases and trials that are not necessarily this high profile, has said that inmates will complain about that on a regular basis, that they're left in that holding cell and they don't get blankets and they're freezing and they're hungry and they're thirsty and they just basically get put in that holding cell and held there.
They do.
Until the transport van is ready to take them back.
Happens all the time here in our county jail. So the girls that I've talked to that's been in the county, they'll tell you the same thing. You will literally sit there for hours and hours. I mean, I get it. They're in jail and they're criminals, but you know, they still have some rights. If you violate their rights, then you jeopardize their cases.
Right. Yes. Got to make sure their rights are taken care of. Even at that, though, does it rise to the level of needing a new trial? No.
Now they should have just threw her a blanket and gave her a bottle of water and she'd been fine. It is what it is at some point, but still, you know.
Oh my
But
gosh,
people
Kelly.
feel some kind. People don't care, you know. It's Lori, so but I can't be that way. If I want to uphold the Constitution, I can't let it only apply to the defendants I like. Right? It has to apply to all of them.
Right. And it's the same thing with police investigations.
Yep.
They need to be done right so we get the right guy or gal and justice is served through due process.
We've seen too many stories lately about how they really fudge up a case because of dumb things they do. I'm talking about investigators or lack of investigation, things like that. There's just been a lot of that lately. But people don't want to acknowledge that if it's Lori because it's Lori. But I can't not acknowledge it, you know. Doesn't make me think I don't feel sorry for her at all. Don't get me wrong. It's not about that. For me, anyway.
On Monday, June 2nd, 2025, the court sent an order to Maricopa County Sheriff's Office requesting that they medically evaluate. Okay. All right, Dizzy, I'm not going to correct her grammar. I will stop doing that.
Yeah, let it go.
All right, I'm letting it go right now. It's gone. See that? On Monday, June 2nd, 2025, the court sent an order to MCSO requesting they medically evaluate defendant, a violation of this defendant's Fourth Amendment rights, and Arizona Constitution, Article 2, Section 8. June 3rd, 2025, MCSO called defendant out of bed again to walk down to medical. MCSO ordered CHS to evaluate the defendant's health without her knowledge. MCSO ordered CHS to evaluate defendant's health without her knowledge. CHS then provided their evaluation to the court through MCAO's civil attorney, Joseph Vigil, which was a HIPAA violation. Notice filed on June 3rd, 2025, initially not under seal. On Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, this court ordered again defendant to court by any means necessary. Order to MCSO. Any means necessary order means guards show up at your cell and pull you out of bed and take you to court against your will. Okay. And once in court, defendant again informs the judge that she cannot proceed because she is too ill. Judge Boreski orders her not only to stay, but to defendant herself while too sick to do so. Defendant was then forced by the court to voir dire the jury and select a jury. You know, I was there for all of that, and I never saw her throw up one single time. Like, don't you think if you really wanted this to turn into an issue that you would throw up in front of the jury? But no, she acted and interacted with the jury fairly normally, besides like when she was at the podium, like standing hunched over, so in case her belt might show to the jury, then she could get a mistrial. Oh, USA Libertarian, that's not true. That's not
What?
true. He says, or USA Libertarian, I don't know. Anyway, USA Libertarian says Joe can't see her flaws. Oh, I see her flaws.
Whose flaws?
Absolutely.
Lori's?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I see her flaws.
Well, okay,
And-
I don't even understand the comment.
Yeah, I think some of it goes back to, saying that all prisoners have rights and their rights should be preserved regardless. Maybe it goes back to that. I don't know. Or maybe, okay. It was a sarcasm. I gotcha. I missed the winky face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, her grammar flaws. Right. I got it now. I said I cleansed myself of it, so now I don't see any flaws. I actually did. I actually did in that last paragraph, and I had to contain myself.
She's left letters off of words throughout this document. I'm not, to me, her typos and words are just not going to eat up my energy. She's Lori.
No, it doesn't take my energy. It's like any document that I read that anybody produces and I have to read, I like see that instantly, like my eye is drawn to that. Like,
I'm the same way. I'm reading documents all the time on my channel and they don't make sense. Sometimes it makes me sound stupid because I'm reading exactly verbatim from the document. And you're like, wait a minute, that don't even make sense. So I get it. But it's not only in Lori documents, real attorneys file documents that sometimes are like, what? I've read too many. I know it is what it is. So I don't let it bother me.
Judge Bareski. So the one that I saw in the last paragraph that I had to really contain myself was Judge Bareski orders her not only to stay, but to defend herself. Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Although defendant was still suffering from a viral illness, she was expected by Judge Bareski to give her opening statement and begin cross-examining witnesses, which she did, fairly normally. I didn't see any behaviors that were different from the first trial. Friday, June 6, 2025, Judge Bareski ordered defendant by any means necessary to again defend herself, sick in a full day of court from 9:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m., which she was able to do. Sunday, June 8th, 2025, Defendant's Advisory Council again emailed the court that defendant is still sick and that she had been notified by CHS of the results of the testing performed, came back with an infection in need of antibiotics for treatment. Yet again, a by any means necessary order was entered by the court for Monday, June 9th, on which day Judge Bareski cleared the courtroom and sealed the hearing now that there was actual evidence that the defendant had really been sick the whole time without treatment. In the end, Judge Bareski still ordered defendant to defend herself at trial, knowing she was too ill to proceed. The by any means necessary order continued from Judge Bareski, continued every day through trial from May 30th until June 12th, the day the verdict was given. This is a violation of defendant's due process rights under the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution and Article 2, Section 4 of the Arizona Constitution. This alone constitutes a new trial. Lack of impartiality. Here we go. Judge is a big meanie. The court precluded this defendant from presenting her case by not allowing defendant to argue objections, regularly denying sidebars, and not allowing her time to consult with her investigator and obtain documents from him prior to cross-examining witnesses. To begin, this defendant, in attempting to cross-examine the case agent regarding the investigation done at the scene by initial responding officers, was denied that opportunity. FTR June 9th, minute 3:50:31. The initial responding officer spoke with a witness who provided a different description of the Jeep she saw during the incident. Defendant attempted to cross-examine the case agent when the state objected to the answer based on hearsay. The objection by the state was sustained. Defendant, even though not having been asked for a response from the judge, argued the statement was not being used for the truth of the matter, rather to show effect on listen. Defendant requested a sidebar and was denied. The same interaction occurred with another scene agent, Detective David Frerer, when defendant attempted to cross-examine him regarding what other neighbors told police they heard during police investigation. A hearsay objection was sustained without allowing defendant an opportunity to respond. For the record, June 6, 2025, minute 9:55:02. Lastly, defendant put on the record early in the case that her investigator, Jeff White, had been out ill. The court requested defendant's advisory counsel work with investigator White to obtain documents and exhibits she would need to cross-examine witnesses. Photos were received by advisory counsel and were not able to be printed in time to use during the cross of Detective Frerer. Those exhibits are attached as Exhibit 1. So that was the day that Pam Hicks was late to court because she was told that morning, last minute, that Lori wanted them printed out, I assume, and was having trouble printing them out and was late to court and got scolded pretty good by Judge Boreski for being late to court. Defendant was also unable to admit exhibits 192, 193, and 194 as the state and the court continued to state she would be opening the door to her prior convictions. Additionally, the state continuously stated defendant's line of questioning relating to Melanie Boudreau constituted a third-party defense, yet defendant never attempted to blame Melanie Boudreau for the crimes. Whew, you sure did some insinuation though, lady. Defendant was simply attempting to cross-examine the victim, Brandon Boudreau, as to why he blamed the defendant. Exhibits 192, 193, and 194 are attached as Exhibit 2. And I got to disappoint you, they're not included in this. We don't get to see what she wanted to present as these exhibits. They were not included in the court filing or in the court thing that was the document that was uploaded to the court docket. These exhibits are not included. The judge is a big meanie. Trina K is a big meanie. Every time Trina K has an objection, he grants it, and he never grants any of her motions, ever. We just saw that clip. Abuse of discretion, denial of Rule 13.5 hearing. On May 29th, 2025, after reviewing juror electronic questionnaire, defendant requested a probable cause hearing on aggravating circumstances pursuant to Arizona Rules of Criminal Procedure, not releasing the jury from admonition on record. Oh my gosh, I noticed this in court.
I know you did. I know. And I thought about that when I read it, Joe. I was like, oh, wow. Because I remember you telling me that happened. You were discussing that.
Yeah. And I asked, and Nate was sitting right next to me too. And Justin, I don't remember Justin being that. Nate was there. And I asked him, I was like, did he just put the court in recess without releasing the jury? Not releasing from the jury from the admonition on the record. After the verdict was read on June 12, 2025, the court dismissed the jury so that the parties could discuss whether an aggravation phase would be presented. After discussion relating to the denial of the Rule 13.5 hearing, the court set a sentencing date and dismissed the parties without bringing the jury back into the courtroom to officially lift the admonition and dismiss the jury. This is true. This happened. And I would need to speak with an attorney or someone who is a legal expert to know if that matters. And I said that when we did that recap that night, I think with Trial TV Live, I think I mentioned that. Oh.
Yeah, you did.
Interesting. That is an interesting point. All right. Allowing GSR and DNA evidence without sufficient foundation and denial of right to confront witnesses. This is that Tammy Lachik thing.
Oh,
she's the one that collected it, and she was not called into court for
well,
some
there's
reason.
Something going on with think she's in trouble.
Yeah, okay, I won't get into the details of it, but yes,
Yeah.
there's a story from last December that has absolutely nothing to do with this case at all.
Yeah.
But she might be in a little bit of trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Hold on. Mute. Sorry, my Alexa was yelling at me. All right. So allowing GSR and DNA evidence without sufficient foundation and denial of right to confront witnesses. On May 3rd, 2025, the state filed a motion to preclude Brady material relating to the crime scene tech Tammy Lachik from Gilbert Police Department, who collected material evidence from the alleged crime scene. This being the Jeep in Idaho. Brady material showing that the witness Lachik was implicated in an incident that resulted in her resignation was disclosed by the state on May 1st, 2025, even though the report was concluded on March 6th, 2025. Because of the late disclose, defendant requested the court order the state to disclose the witness Lachik's employee file so that defendant could thoroughly investigate any issues that might be relevant to this witness testifying at trial set to begin on May 29th, 2025. The court denied this request. On May 25th, 2025, the state notified defendant that 2 pages of this witness Lachik's notes, which other forensic scientists would have needed to rely upon or had relied upon, but were now missing and could not be provided to defense. On June 3rd, 2025, in the middle of trial, the state disclosed a letter from the witness Lachik's indicating that she would not be testifying. Defendant Exhibit 203 marked for appellate purposes. Defendant objected prior to each forensic scientist, 2 from Mesa Crime Lab and 1 from Phoenix Crime Lab, to the witness testifying about analysis they completed based on the work conducted by witness Lachik. The first witness was Emilyn Sapinoso, who created a profile from the blood blots collected by this witness at the autopsy of Alex Cox. The second analyst was Vanessa Mielke, who testified that the blood blot profile of Alex Cox matched DNA swabs taken by witness Lachik from the Jeep Wrangler. Finally, analyst Kyle Mueller, who testified about GSR particles found inside the Jeep that were collected by witness Lachik. Those objections were denied. Argument and authority. The Arizona Rules of Criminal Procedure provide that the court may grant a new trial for any other reason not due to the defendant's own fault. The defendant has not received a fair and impartial trial. Fourth Amendment violation, medical evaluation. The new trial is appropriate. She repeats the same thing. Arizona Rules of Criminal Procedure 24.1 C5. By forcing the defendant to proceed with trial as her own counsel, deprived her of the right to effective assistance of counsel. Oh my gosh. Oh, the logic behind this is just like, by forcing defendant to proceed with trial as her own counsel, deprived her of the right to effective assistance of counsel. Yikes.
Nobody forced her to be her own lawyer. That was her choice.
There is no honor in forcing this defendant to defend herself sick. There is no honor in ordering by any means necessary to ensure that you will be the judge to preside over this high-profile case. There is no honor in, wow, she's coming at the judge. There is no honor in threatening defendant over and over that you will inform the jury that she was convicted of prior murders. Where is the honor in this court system? Wow, this is like a middle school debate speech. Like, what does honor have to do with it? Does she get sick of having to call him the Honorable Judge Bresky? Is that where she gets the word honor from it? I've got to read that paragraph again because this is like a middle school debate speech. She cites Arizona Rules of Criminal Procedure 24.1 C5. By forcing defendant to proceed with trial as her own counsel, deprived her of the right to effective assistance of counsel. There is no honor in forcing this defendant to defend herself sick. There is no honor in ordering by any means necessary to ensure that you will be the judge to preside over this high-profile case. There is no honor in threatening defendant over and over that you will inform the jury that she was convicted of prior murders. Where is the honor in this court system? Paragraph B, a defendant may move for a new trial based on the court's lack of impartiality. And she's argued this like 4 times now, that Judge Bereski is not impartial. Hold on, I got to check a couple things real quick. 0, it's funny you see that. 0 says, I just hope we never hear her voice again. Never, never, never. The problem is I can hear her reading this. I can hear her reading this in her voice. Like I can't imitate it, or I would, but then I'd lose viewers in a hurry. But I can hear this. I can hear her reading this in her voice. Defendant may move for a new trial based on the court's lack of impartiality. While under the law, a trial court is presumed to be impartial and free from bias. The defendant can rebut this by the preponderance of the evidence by showing the court required her to present her defense strategy to the state before calling any witnesses, by denying the defendant a thorough opportunity to present her case, by preventing defendant from arguing objections, regularly denying sidebars, and not allowing her time to consult with her investigator and obtain documents from him prior to cross-examining witnesses. This court established a lack of impartiality. During cross-examination, defendant was not allowed opportunities or even asked for responses to state's objections. Defendant was continuously admonished not to speak over the court. Yet when courts generally request a response from defense regarding objections, this defendant was not afforded that opportunity. When defendant attempted to explain why a statement was not hearsay because it established how the police investigated the case, the court spoke over the defendant. The court spoke over the defendant, telling her the objection was sustained. When the defendant requested a sidebar, it was denied. When the court spoke over the defendant, oh my gosh, he's a piece of work. I'm glad we watched those 2 videos, because I hadn't got this far in this document yet. I'm glad we watched those 2 videos of her arguing with Judge Bereski, because it's fresh in our mind now how it really went down. And I think she's a little deluded about how it went down. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
By not allowing defendant to question witnesses relating to Melanie Boudreau and how that could have impacted victim Brandon Boudreau thoughts on why he blamed defendant, this court showed a lack of impartiality. Any attempt to present defendant's case was met with threats of informing the jury about defendant's prior convictions. Yeah, it's called opening the door, Lori, and you were actually being protected from that. That's not a threat. That's a protection for you. And Trina K just got sick of it, and her rebuttal on closing was just masterful. Like, she was on fire. She was sick of it too. Abuse of discretion. Denial of Rule 13.5 hearing. The court abused its discretion by denying a probable cause hearing under Rule 13.5 on the aggravating factors alleged by the state. This is a flat out lie. The judge asked her if she was doing it voluntarily, and if anybody had coerced her into it, and if she understood the ramifications and consequences of stipulating to the aggravating factors. This is crazy. We sat right there. You guys sat right there on TV. I sat there in person and watched her stipulate to the aggravating factors voluntarily.
Yep.
This is just delusional. Is like
We all know she's delusional. I mean, I know it.
This
I'm
is
just
like a
waiting
whole
on
nother-
everybody else to catch up.
This is like a whole nother level of delusional.
Yeah. The girl's not right in the head. She hasn't been for years.
I really, after these 2 trials, I really believe it. And all of these filings and the arguments that she makes in court and in these motions. Right, Naomi? Yeah. Hopefully this is the last time. Well, no, we have that 64-page appeal
in Idaho.
Yeah. The court abused its
I
discretion.
haven't finished that document either, but I know there was some interesting things in there. I just haven't had time to go back and read because it's a lot of it's 64 pages, so I haven't finished reviewing all of that yet.
Right. I mean, look how long it's taking us just to get through like 13 pages.
Well, I know I spend hours reading documents on my channel. It takes that long sometimes, especially when you have to stop and commentate. Right? You're like, oh wait, what? And I'm so bad about doing that.
The court abused its discretion by denying a probable cause hearing under Rule 13.5 on the aggravating factors alleged by the state. There is only one sentence allowed for the crime of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and therefore the state should not have been allowed to argue aggravating factors. The court abused its discretion by denying defendant a Rule 13.5 hearing. No, he said we could have one. Not releasing the jury from the admonition on the record. I already talked about that. Court abused its discretion. Allowing GSR and DNA evidence without sufficient foundation. This defendant was denied her Sixth Amendment right to confront all witnesses. A clearly material witness was allowed to not be called. Well, you could have put her on the defense list and you didn't do that. You put she put Moffat on the list and he was actually served with a subpoena. So why didn't? Well, you know why she didn't subpoena Tammy Lachik, because she thought Tammy Lachik was going to come in and testify because she was on the state's witness, and she was until she resigned. So, defendant denied Sixth Amendment right to confront all witnesses. A clearly material witness was allowed to not be called, and then other analysts were allowed to testify to her work product in violation of Smith versus Arizona and the U.S. Confrontation Clause 602 U.S. 779, 2024. Further, defendant was precluded from investigating witness Lachik's employee file to see if there were other issues that would be allowed as impeachment evidence during trial. The court failed to conduct any evidentiary hearing and only issued a minute entry stating that the events happened after she collected the evidence. By preventing defendant from conducting an independent investigation into witness Lachik and conducting an evidentiary hearing, it abused its discretion. Conclusion. The state of Arizona does not honor the Constitution of the United States. The state of Arizona does not honor the constitutional rights of the accused or even the civil rights of the accused. For this purpose, a new trial is required. Respectfully submitted this 23rd day of June, 2025. Lori Daybell, prisoner number G062213. That's it.
Well, her motion's going to be denied.
Yeah. She's got to put some of it in there for appeals purposes, and she's got to file within 30 days. So I'm not surprised by this. I'm only surprised by her level of delusion. Zero. Oh, that's funny. A cellmate that keeps her in line. Big mama with big biceps.
Yep. There's jail, there's prison families and different things that go on. Lori's not on death row, so good.
No,
she's been in
pop. Yeah, right. Exactly. She's been in isolation and solitary, if you will. Isolation, not solitary. She's been in isolation, since she's been down here in Arizona. So does she go back to Gen Pop when she gets back to Idaho?
I think she does because she's not on death row.
Right. Yeah. Her attorneys took care of that. That's the only thing they said they could have accomplished, and they did, was getting the death penalty removed for her.
Well, they had help. The prosecutors failed to turn over evidence on time. Let's not pretend that didn't happen. The death penalty for Lori Vallow in Idaho was removed for prosecution failing to turn over discovery to the defense. It is what it is.
Right.
And then he also cited the mass media coverage. Secondary.
Right. Oh, so we had a new member today. That was Ada, right? I wonder if Ada's still around. Anyway, thanks for becoming a new member. Yeah, I can't find it in my chat. I'm like scrolling way up and it disappeared and it's not in the starred comments. Boop, boop, boop. Anyway, thank you, Ada, for becoming a new member. There we go. See, I remembered right. My memory's not quite as bad as I think it is, or as you think it is. Ada, thank you. And let's see, we have a question from Naomi. When will Lori ride off into the sunset? When indeed? July 25th, plus 30 days she'll be in Idaho, but the next time we will hear from her for sure will be July 25th. Sentencing will be July 25th. And the same judge that she says is impartial and unfair to her will get to sentence her. That's a real good idea to not make friends with Judge Boreski. Oh, he's getting rotated over to child protection court. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, not necessarily for him, but he's a good judge for that, obviously. If he can deal with Lori, then he can. He obviously has a big heart. So, but there have got to be some tough cases that come up in child protection court, and
There always is.
yeah, that's going to be tough.
Well, he's a judge. He's got to go do his job either way. Go
Right.
protect the children, Judge. I'm all for that.
Well, this is a good question from Sarcasm. Do you think she has grounds for any of the claims? So I think she might have some valid complaints about a couple of the things, like she did in the last one, where a judge was like, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have commented on that, but they're not going to rise to the level of requiring a new trial. I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
Judge may review this and be like, hey, you have a point there, but it's not something that is going to just reset everything. It's not that great of a violation of your rights, if it is a violation of your rights at all. So yeah, good questions, everybody. Thank you. Thanks everybody for hanging in there. We're a little over 2 hours long now. So I'm going to call it a day on here for this stream. It's not morning anymore. Morning Joe Schmoe is time to wrap up. Remember, we have tomorrow night, I have my interview with Tom Evans, juror 18 from Lori's Idaho trial. He was there for every minute of that. He ended up being an alternate juror, so he didn't get to deliberate with the rest of the jury, but he had already, by the time they got to the end, he had already pretty much formed his opinion before deliberations, and obviously agreed with what that jury decided. So he's also written 2 books, one about the first trial, then one about Chad's trial. He went to Chad's trial, and then he came down for Lori's first trial in April. And he's writing a 3rd book, I think, about one of his chapters is going to be on the FLDS. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. Make sure you tune into that. And then Saturday afternoon, I have another special broadcast that came about from my trip back from Arizona to Indiana. Somewhere in the middle there, I ran across something that I'm going to talk about on Saturday. I think that's going to be 2:00 Eastern, if I remember right. So keep an eye out for that. Turn on your notifications, subscriptions, like and share. And thanks everybody for hanging out. Thank you, Salty, for coming up here with me and helping me wade through all of this stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll catch
Bye,
you.
everyone.
We'll catch you on the other side.
Good morning. Good morning. Hope you got your cup of joe and filled up your morning with good things to know. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for saying hi. Together we make a difference. Be sure to come back by. Good morning, good morning. Thanks for saying hi. Together we make a difference. Be sure to come back by. Good morning. Hope you got your cup of joe and filled up your morning.